why I ain't marrying a liability. I'm not marrying a lazy man. You're both contributing financially. Surely there should be a balance domestically as well. I think all these gender roles sometimes can be more destructive than helpful. It's your life partner, not your servant. Do you understand? There is service, but service, I believe, should be a mutual thing. Hi guys, welcome to Mochunkstv and welcome to another installment of Chit Chat with Mo. So this is the second part of the show where we have controversial debates, honest conversation and so much more. So guys, today I want to talk about the reasons why I ain't marrying a liability. I'm not marrying a lazy man. When the time comes for me to make a choice, I will not be choosing. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, is a lazy, entitled, submission obsessed man. Okay, so guys, let's just jump into this video. So I've seen tons of videos of like women coming online to complain, especially on TikTok. I've seen some videos of women, you know, the scenario is usually they've gone to work, they've been away for a long time, or they're both the man and the woman are working and they come home to a mess. Like the place is just a huge tip. I think the one that made me feel sorry for the woman the most was it was coronavirus period, and now because she was working in contact with people, she had to be away from the house for a bit. So what she did was she got the house ready, got it in order, you know, like any wise person that's going away for a while, preparing like, you know, food and all of that kind of stuff. Went away for the 2 weeks or so that it was, came back and it was like a jungle. And she was like, she always cleans, she always cooks. For that period of time that she was away, it's not asking for much for her to expect her husband to step up, look after the babies, clean the house. You know, just a nice conducive environment for human living. And, you know, she couldn't get that. There was also a video of a guy who, you know, they were a young couple. He was upset with her for not asking him to clean nicely or something like that. And, you know, she just narrated, you know, what she'd been through that entire day. You know, she'd done the laundry, she'd done everything, and he's just there sitting down.
I just feel like you could have been nicer to me.
Oh my gosh, well I feel like you could have done 80 more things today than you did. I feel like I woke up and I cleaned our room, I did our bed, I cleaned the sheets, I did the laundry, I put your clothes away, I come in the kitchen, nothing's done. So I do everything, then I make you breakfast, then I get the baby ready, then I get myself ready. And what do, Michael? You just tell me I could have been nicer. That seems pretty nice to me. And you thought I was pretty nice last night. Super nice. Woo!
Damn.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, this kind of behavior, we cannot enable it anymore. Women, assemble, okay? You the men too. I'm pulling your ears right now, but listening to this video because women are sick of it. You know, we talked about how black women are tired of being strong. I mentioned some of these, like sometimes domestic pressures that can be on the black woman, but I think this is a woman issue generally. A lot of women have to, you know, face this in their relationships, in their marriages, the pressures of both being part of the, you know, financial providers in the house. Let's be frank, women do contribute to family finances in this 21st century. And, you know, that's changed from what we used to see, where the men would be the ones, hunters and gatherers, going out to, you know, get the money, get the money into the family, and the woman would, you know, look after the babies. You know, that makes sense, because if someone is out working all day and you're at home, you're not working, you should look after the baby, you should clean the house, you should get everything ready. Now, what we're seeing is that, you know, women and men are doing, you know, essentially the same thing in terms of both contributing, in some cases equally, in some cases unequally. It could be a 70-30 situation or a 60-40 situation. I've seen more of like the 70-30s, 80-20s, but I do know there are some 50-50s, and I do know there are in some cases where the woman is the breadwinner and she's the 70-30, or in some cases 100 and the husband is a house husband. There's nothing wrong with all those dynamics, but there is something wrong with when there is like a contribution on both sides to the finances, but then there's that imbalance of the domestic side of like keeping the house. I think it's very unfair for somebody to think of yourself as the man. It would be very unfair if you went out, she was at home. Let's think of a situation of where the husband is the house husband. She was at home. You went out to work, gathered the money, you came back and there was no food. The babies are dirty. It just doesn't make sense. But we do see that because she's a woman, even though she is the breadwinner in some cases, she's still expected to still come and handle the domestic aspects of the home, and it just doesn't make sense. And I understand that, okay, yes, women are meant to be submissive, we see that in the Bible, but the husband is also meant to love his bride so much that he would lay his life down for her. That's sacrificial love. That's the love that was represented by Jesus when he died for all of us. So if you love somebody, I cannot fathom, I cannot get my head around I cannot get my head around why you would want to put her through so much hardship, and you wouldn't even want to, I don't even want to say help, because you're not helping. It's your house. It's both of your responsibility to look after it and keep it clean. And, this idea, some people are still getting brought up with, in my family, women more domesticated, the men are meant to be looked after, served, honored, that kind of thing. And it's kind of like, yo, look, Otilo. Let's just all get over it. It's gone. If you truly love this woman and you're both working, you're both contributing financially, surely there should be a balance domestically as well. You're not marrying a maid, you're marrying a life partner. And I find in some of these scenarios, there's that expectation that, they've acquired a maid, that this is now my server. There was that controversy with Daddy Adeboye like a week ago where he wrote a birthday message, a very unique birthday message to his wife. And whilst I didn't really get entangled in that discussion, see what I did there, entanglement. I found it quite interesting, that, he's someone that's very much into God, obviously loves God, obviously has run his race and, served people. When it was now time to wish his wife a happy birthday, it focused and centered around him being the head of the home and the things that she does to serve him, and how she doesn't have much autonomy as a woman, and how everything she just bends to his will. And it's like, Kilo Day, what is this obsession with submission to your long? Like, what is this obsession with being the head? So much so that on her birthday, you couldn't think of anything that makes her such a great woman as outside of how she serves you, which shows you that there is a huge problem with the expectations that we have for women to serve men, even when they have their own things going on. And people will say things like they want an independent woman, they want a woman that's doing well, but how can she do well if she has all these burdens tied to her? I remember actually that I was dating somebody, I think a year or two ago, and they were so adamant that they would not be learning how to cook, that they didn't know how to cook. And I saw patterns, like whenever I would call them to, ask, have you had dinner, for example? And they would say things like, oh, I'm going to the shop to, like chicken and chip shop to get takeaway because maybe their sister or their mother didn't make dinner. And I was like, oh boy, you can't for once just get inside the kitchen and make something for yourself. And this is no shade to him. That might work for somebody else. But for me, knowing where I'm going in this world, knowing that I am going to be a working woman, as much as I love, oh my God, one of my favorite things to do is to cook for the people that I love. If I cook for you, I love you. Like, I don't even like cooking for myself, but when I want to treat somebody, I'll spend time in the kitchen for them, make sure their belly is really happy. As much as I love that, I don't want that to be like, you must, in spite of. It's not an everyday thing. Some people will now be requesting for fresh soup every day. A kilo day. Do you want to kill these women, for God's sakes? They'll be requesting for fresh soup. I don't eat freezer food. It must be fresh. Who's going to be doing all that one? Unless you mutually decide, okay, we're both working, we both can afford it, let's hire a chef. But then you'll still have some people that will have an issue with that because it's their wife's cooking they want to eat. So it's just like, any brothers, any uncles, Come on, let's just be a bit reasonable now, okay? You know, you want this woman to be alive to enjoy her children, alive to enjoy you. Marriage is to be enjoyed, not to be endured. And what I'm seeing from a lot of these women is that frustration that it's like, oh my God, like we've been together for so long and still you're not taking this into account. My story, what I was saying is when I found that this guy was, I just jokingly said it to him one day, like, oh, it's a new year. Are you gonna like start, learning to cook? Who's calling me for God's sake? I'm recording. Like, are you going to start learning to cook? And he was like, why? Like, he was actually annoyed by my question. Like, why will you ask me? Like, shame you marry your own. Like, and I was just like, okay, that was the day that I started to plan my exit strategy. I know we women, we don't just leave. The day we leave isn't the day we leave, okay? We've had it in our head. We've been pondering. We've pondered and we've decided, okay? So that was the day that I started planning my exit strategy because I know where I'm going. And you as a woman, if you're watching this, you need to know where you're going. If you're happy being a housewife, then fair enough. And you're happy just doing the 100% of the domestic work, fair enough. Or if you're somebody that you know you're going to be a career woman, you want to marry somebody that's considerate all around, not just in the domestic area, but especially in the domestic area, because that is one key part of, I believe what can make or break your relationship. I believe that's where resentment starts to grow sometimes when you feel like you're carrying 100% of the load of what's going on in the house. Now, as much as I can be a feminine woman, I also don't believe that men should carry 100% of the financial burden. And I say burden for a reason. For some men, they have it like that and it's easy for them to look after the family. Not every man has it like that. And I feel like in those scenarios, it's not a shame for the woman to help out in that department. And it's not a shame for him to also help out in the domestic department. I think all these gender roles sometimes can be more destructive than helpful, especially if the person's lifestyle capacity, finances does not allow for that. We hear of all the scenarios of men, that, sometimes in extreme cases, we just give up because it's too much for all of these things. It's too much for one person to carry. And I believe that's why God has equipped us and given us the opportunity to have helpmates. Like, we are life partners. We help each other out in our weaknesses, in our strengths, in the gaps. We fill in the gaps for one another. It's not that you be at home, you be waiting for her to come and cook for you after she's like, let's just share the load a little bit more is the purpose of this discourse. Oh yeah, I saw this really beautiful thread of a man that gets it. And I feel like, and this is not to bash men, I don't like bashing men at all. I think there are some really, really great men out there that help their wives. And I use the word help loosely because, again, it's our house, we're meant to look after it, but that believe in mutual service to one another. And, he made a really beautiful thread about when he was younger, when him and his girlfriend were still in the dating stage, he would help her out, he would cook for her, he would clean for her. But he had in the back of his mind that when they get married, that's when he will wear his agbada. He will sit on the couch, get ready to be served. And then he had this revelation from this beautiful book called the Bible. And, he, I can't remember the particular verse, but this gave him the revelation of that, the fact that serving one's spouse is a blessing. It's a mutual thing. It's to be celebrated. The fact that you get to serve one another. Not this archaic mindset of, I am the man, I am the head, you must serve me. You've married her. She's your life partner, not your servant. Do you understand? There is service, but service, I believe, should be a mutual thing. And he really broke it down. I was like, wow, somebody gets it. And again, this was a Nigerian man. I think we have this idea that all Nigerian men are like very archaic in their viewpoints. And I say it because I'm Nigerian, I hear the conversations about Nigerian men, but it's not the case. Some are really, really, really well brought up. I have some male friends that I know they are really, really well brought up and they understand what it means to serve a woman. And that doesn't take away from their masculinity. I think sometimes it's that toxic masculinity that some men are trying to uphold, and it's like, that's not what being a leader is. A leader serves. You love your wife enough to help her out in the house. So my question to you guys is, how important on your list is somebody that is domesticated? So this question can actually go for both the men and the women, but especially for the women. How important is it for you to have a man that is domesticated and understands how to serve you as well, and is not just expecting to be served 24/7, 100% of the time. If you were to meet a guy and he met all your requirements, everything, met all your specs, tick, except for the fact that he expects you to be a career woman and also be his housemaid, would that be a no-no for you, or would you proceed further and hope for the best? You guys let me know in the comment section down below. As for me, I cannot marry a lazy man. I cannot marry a man that is not domesticated and expects me to carry out all the domestic requirements of the house. Call it work. Ain't possible. And for the mandem, do you understand what it means to love a woman? Do you understand what leadership actually entails? What does being the head of the house mean? Does it mean being lord and being served all the time? Or is there an element of being a servant yourself? I really want the lads to let me know as well. And that's all I really have for you guys today. Make sure that if you liked it, share with your friends, comment down below on the things I spoke about, and subscribe to this channel for more. Until next time, guys, peace and love, peace and chunks.